What's up, everyone? Here we are again, another D2C webinar series. Super excited to connect today. Let's just preface, we have our guy Emerson Hammer. He was supposed to be joining us today, and we got a call this morning about 9:30 a.m. that his wife's water broke, and he was on his way to the hospital. So got a curveball, but excited for Emerson and with positive vibes for him and his wife as they're expecting, and yeah, but super excited for the lineup today. I just want to go ahead and just go down the line, and we'll go ahead and let you all introduce yourselves, who you're working with, and we can start there. Let's start with Daniel. On my screen, I've got Daniel, and then Tila, Russ, and Jeremy. So Daniel, you can go ahead and start first.
Yeah, so my name is Daniel. I'm currently the Director of Client Strategy at SendLane. SendLane is pretty much in a nutshell a retention platform. We offer email marketing, SMS marketing, reviews, as well as pop-ups. And I've been in the game, I've been in the retention game for about 10 years. I've worked at brands like Scentbird as well as True Religion, and also spent some time at a very popular marketing agency, the Snow Agency. And pretty much my job was to scale brands and make them money. So now that I'm in SendLane, I'm pretty much hoping to replicate my success there as well, working with a lot of accounts, getting them to the point where they're fully maximizing the SendLane capabilities. So yeah, happy to be here.
No, that's I think the brand crossover always lends itself when you're going to tech and having that brand background. So really pumped to have you, Daniel. We know you got a wealth of knowledge, man, and excited to get to glean some value from you today, man. But yeah, Tila, let's go ahead and have you go.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here today. My name is Tila. I'm the marketing lead at Stamped. We are a retention marketing platform that specializes in reviews, loyalty, and post-purchase retention flows. So those are things like cross-sell, upsell, those types of pieces. We work with 75,000 brands, and we've been around since 2016. Some brands that you'll recognize are Olipop, Ten Tree, Lilac Street, and we are obsessed with all things customer journey. I'm really interested not just in like getting to that first purchase, but also how do you then nudge that to second purchase, to third purchase, and turn that person into a brand advocate. So that's what we will be covering today. For my career, I have about 8 years in B2B marketing, 3 in D2C now. Loving it.
Love to hear it. That's awesome. Yeah, we're excited to jam a little bit on the Stamped, kind of the value there and walking through it. So it's gonna be good. Appreciate the intro there, Tila. Russ, you're up next. I know you, but let's get the intro.
Yeah, what's up? So I'm Russell. I'm from Corso. Corso is a post-purchase platform, more on the operational side than kind of what Tila was saying. But being able to handle any of the way I portray it is just that like any issue that happens after somebody purchases, we've got a software solution or a service that handles it, makes it a good experience for you as the brand and a fantastic customer experience for obviously your buyers, your customers. And so we really focus on, the tracking, the returns, the exchanges, the warranty management. My background is more on the D2C side. I'm a little bit newer to the software world, but I've worked with quite a few D2C brands, on the marketing side as well as the operational side. I've owned a handful of brands myself, and so just kind of knowing the pain points that a small brand as well as a big brand can have. I've felt those. I've managed, and processed tens of thousands of warranty claims, just, myself, written warranties. Anyway, so I get really passionate and really nerdy about the post-purchase, which is, super, super weird and nerdy, but, probably everybody else here is kind of a nerd too. So that's why we're doing this.
I'm not going to argue that. Nerd in a good way. You could say nerd and passionate. I think those are interchangeable. So
That's
we're
fair.
a passionate bunch here, and I love it. Appreciate that, Russ. All right, Jeremy, last but not least, give us the intro. Give us the overview, man.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me today. Jeremy Rudolph here with Phoenix Commerce. I've been in the e-commerce space for about 15 years, doing mostly sales and business development, but working with lots of fast-growing brands. At Phoenix, we're a delivery management platform working very closely to help brands actually replicate the Amazon experience as it comes to delivery, help increase conversions pre-purchase, and then tie it in with that post-purchase experience. So that's just a little bit about Phoenix, and excited to share more with folks today on the call.
Sweet. We appreciate it. I guess I can intro myself. I mean, I don't want to just be the talking head here. I'm Paul. I'm one of the co-founders over here at Corso. My background, I started my career pick, pack, and ship at a 3PL, and kind of did the tech thing. Worked tech, had my day job, kind of working in sales and marketing for different tech companies, and then I'd always have my side hustle of e-com. I've had a couple of different brands myself, a surfboard brand down in Orange County, California, outdoor backpack brand, and that I was able to exit from, and just very, very passionate about everything in the Shopify ecosystem. And I think today's topic is very relevant for a lot of the brands that we're meeting with at Corso on a daily basis. And I think this is going to resonate across the board. Today's subject matter really is surrounding an Amazon-like customer journey for your Shopify brand, right? We're super excited to dive into this, give some tips, give some nuggets of as we're heading into Q4, how you can optimize your Shopify store to try and provide that Amazon-like customer journey. And let's just kind of call it like it is. This is the feedback that we get from our brands, but that Amazon effect is very much real, right? Amazon owns a very large portion of the e-commerce market. And so we have customers, there's just naturally going to be crossover. Customers who are purchasing on Amazon, customers who are purchasing on your Shopify store. And when customers go purchase on that Amazon and have that Amazon experience, they come to your Shopify store, sometimes they just demand more. They want that expectation, or they have that expectation of what they should get, how it should be. And obviously, as a Shopify store owner, the beauty of Shopify is to create and curate a really great experience that's different and that's more branded than what you would get on Amazon. So as we kind of dive into it today, really looking at how we can create these experiences for our customers to delight them, make them happy, and to ultimately help with conversion across the board. So I think we want to essentially today what we're going to do is look at a couple of different components that you can focus on to streamline this. And I want to start with the PDP. So let's open it up. As it pertains to the PDP and how it's structured, we have a couple of different examples here. This is Dermalogica. I own quite a bit. My wife's got a lot of Dermalogica at the house today. It's a great case study here. Jeremy, I'd love to get some thoughts, kind of the PDP, and let's just open it up to the group here. What are some of the differences, some different components here that you can try to achieve as a Shopify brand to optimize your PDP?
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. Thank you. So, Amazon, as you mentioned, they've actually not just trained our consumers, but they've trained us as consumers very well. So one of the things you can see here on the left side is that you get delivery options, and we're always looking for that delivery date. And if we don't have that delivery date, generally we're going to Amazon to look for that delivery date. So what Dermalogica does, and actually what they had done with us, is they were able to put an estimated delivery date right there on the product detail page. They're able to show it that ties into all of their warehouse cutoff times, all of their carrier cutoff times, makes it very simple and easy for the customer to understand exactly when that order is going to be delivered. So there's no question about it. And if they want to see more options other than what the main option is on the page, they can actually open it up, and down there in that on the right side in that left corner there, they can actually see when they're going to be able to get that product. So one of the things that Dermalogica was able to accomplish with Phoenix was to be able to increase add to cart conversion by about 19% just by adding that estimated delivery date there. So it really helps the customer not just get educated on your product, but also be able to be informed of when they're going to receive the product. So
I think this is interesting. There's an outdoor backpack brand that I know that I was discussing this with the VP of marketing, and he was calling out, obviously with a travel bag, I think your demographic really, this is going to resonate in terms of how quickly and just setting that expectation of when that product is coming. And they were noticing at this particular brand that they'd have the same customer come to their site and then ultimately end up purchasing on Amazon just because of the delivery date and the promise date, because they're traveling, right? So again, going back to your demographic, the category of your product, really when you think about it, sometimes like the travel folks, they need to get their product by a specific date, or let's say you've got an event coming up and you need something by X date. Really getting that promised delivery date is super key for them, and that's really going to influence conversion. I've seen it firsthand with obviously brands that we've spoken to. So I think this is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And when when a client, when somebody's shopping and they're looking for a product, and they're traveling, obviously they need that, maybe they want to get a travel size, or or and get it on time, or they're looking for, I think you can see there's different sizes there. That's a 1.7 ounce, I think, on the screen. So definitely want to have that for travel, and ensure that they get it on time. We all know that if the customer leaves our site and goes to Amazon, we don't make as much money, right? So we want to keep that customer on our site as much as possible.
Totally. I think one thing that I want to call out too is the reviews, right? If you can see right there on the Amazon side, when they've got their PDP, they really leverage that review almost in the H1. You can see it directly underneath as it's calling out the product. You can see those reviews, and I just want to get some feedback around how can brands do this and really optimize their PDP on the review side. And that, I mean, Tila, that's a question for you for sure.
Perfect question. And I would say that this kind of replication of Amazon behavior is why we were so keen to participate today, is to talk a little bit about personalization on the PDP and then in the post-purchase flow of what you can do. I think that reviews are considered right now to be so table stakes. Like every D2C brand knows we need reviews because people don't trust brand imagery or brand feedback as much as UGC. But a lot of people are starting to have the perception that reviews and UGC are actually being manipulated by a brand, right? Maybe you only see 5-star reviews. Maybe you see a ton that say like sponsored by, or Dermalogica doesn't do this, but Sephora does this. And you can see it in the Sephora postings of Dermalogica. It'll say like affiliate or product gifted for free under the review. So for a brand on their P2P page, there's kind of like a few things that they can do to make their reviews more effective. The first is keep them above the fold. So obviously you can see Dermalogica does this. They're using Stamp for their New Zealand website, so you can go check this out, where they'll have their reviews above the fold. And then some companies will actually have that product photo carousel will actually have some of the photo reviews that they've collected in there too. So it's not just brand imagery, it's actual customer imagery complementing that. And that tends to have a really high conversion lift. We see when people do that, they're almost getting a 10x lift in their conversion just from moving that photo review kind of down from the review widget up into the primary brand imagery. And then the second thing that I would say to consider is to make sure that reviews are searchable and filterable. So Dermalogica is the perfect example. We all have different skin types. We're all looking for different things. When people submit reviews, you can have them share what's your skin type, what are your skin concerns, how long have you been a customer, what's your age, and then you could actually show those filters amongst the reviews. So on here, you can imagine if someone clicks into that 4.7 star and then they land and they're reading through those 4,000 reviews, that is a ton of information to digest. They want to look for themselves in that information. So let them filter by their age, by their skin type, surface what they're looking for. And we find that that has a huge conversion lift just because of that simple personalization element.
So Tila, you're saying on the actual product carousel, rather than your standard product with a white background, just very clean, but to be able to incorporate UGC or essentially reviews right within the product carousel, and you're seeing a big uptick in conversion there.
Yeah, Exactly. So put some of that customer imagery. You can also do other things if that's like too big of a risk and you want to A/B test it. Try putting like an Instagram carousel widget right below the product listing and have that surface UGC and then product reviews right before it. The goal is just more personalized imagery.
That's a great call out. I think the data is very compelling. Just to be able to increase conversion by including those images. That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of takeaways. I think also just personalization as it pertains to the reviews, being able to sort and filter based on my needs as a consumer. Like I want to hear not only just, hey, it's 5 stars or whatever, but I want to hear from folks that are like me, right? And I think being able to filter that as a consumer, that really is going to level up the experience, which is massive. I want to transition to checkout. Any other feedback and thoughts on the PDP itself, Russ or Daniel, before we jump to the checkout experience?
No feedback from me. The only thing that I would say that it's important to really understand is, why you're getting the reviews that you're getting, right? And I know from a retention perspective, there is always the opportunity of segmenting based on those who may rate a product 1 to 3 stars or 4 to 5 stars. Typically, my go-to is that when you do have a review platform, whether that's, within an email platform or not, you should definitely strategize based on the ratings. So people who actually leave a review of 1 to 3 stars should be added into a dedicated journey. And those who are leaving great reviews, like your 4 to 5 stars, can then be added to a separate journey. Those who are leaving those lower reviews, you really want to understand why they're doing that, right? So what I always would recommend is that, you fire off an email. The delay could vary, but you fire off an email. The email would include a survey form. That survey can be via Google or type form, but collect the data. Understand why they're leaving these reviews, why the product isn't really high in their rating scale, and use that to better your product, right? And by doing that, making these changes over time, you should have like a better experience, right? The customers are likelier to, if you're making changes to the product, enhancing it, the ratings should improve over time. And those who are leaving reviews of 4 to 5 stars should be treated differently. I always like to give them the opportunity to be added into a VIP sequence, right? Like if you're leaving these good reviews, we're going to add you to the VIP club, or, maybe an opportunity to join the loyalty program as well, right? But regardless of what the experience is per brand, you should definitely have an email sequence in place depending on the rating.
And I want to say the beauty of obviously having a Shopify store versus what you can do on Amazon is you can engage with that customer, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not as gated, right? Like we know this. If you've ever sold anything on Amazon, it can be tricky to be able to engage with that customer. Exactly what Daniel called out, being able to leverage tech and process within your Shopify store. If you're getting a 1 star review, you should engage and you have the opportunity to do that. And I think you need to leverage that on your D2C experience in Shopify. So I think that's a great call out. At Corso, ultimately, we always want to try to provide tools to the customers, so to the brands to be able to communicate with their customers and ask for that feedback. So I think that's a really, really valuable call out, Daniel, for sure. Let's get to checkout. I love checkout. It's very interesting as you look at it compared to Amazon and to what you can get on the Shopify Plus side. I think there's a couple of things that I want to compare and contrast and some value adds here of what you could do from a Shopify perspective to elevate your checkout. But yeah, I'd love to open it up. Who wants to dissect this thing and who wants to give some call outs on the two?
I'll jump in here. So honestly, I think Amazon is a great example. I mean, they ABCDE test everything, so they're a great example of how to do things on your PDP and how to run things, to make it really easy and remove friction from ordering. However, I also think Shopify makes that a very simple solution. They kind of streamline that process for brands. One thing that we do at Corso is we've got our shipping protection product that we prefer to put it in the checkout because, first off, the attachment rate's a little bit higher. But we also see that like customers like to have that confidence of like, hey, if something goes wrong, like we know that I'm taken care of. I've talked to hundreds of brands. I actually, when I was part of a brand, used shipping protection. And, early on I was skeptical. I was like, really, like, do customers actually want this? But, talking to customers, talking to brands, I mean, of course, we have, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of 5-star reviews because, and a lot of them follow this exact same, thought process of, or this same message of, I'm so glad that, this issue is taken care of in a very easy, very simple way. Super great customer service. The customer is opting in for an elevated customer experience, right? An elevated VIP treatment. And when they get that, and we see this all the time where they say, I'm a customer for life, or I will be purchasing again. And, they see that the brand really is, they give credit to the brand as far as like being able to give them that elevated and upgraded experience. And so really, I mean, today we called the webinar Click to Confidence. Really, we're trying to increase the confidence of those customers so that they become customers, being very clear, making it a very easy process, but then giving them all of the tools that they need to feel very comfortable placing an order. Like, we kind of mentioned earlier when talking about the PDP, a lot of times customers will go to a brand, find a product, and then they'll go to Amazon and buy there just because they know when they're going to get it. And they know, they know the return policy. They know they're just a little bit more comfortable, right, with Amazon. But if you can give them that same, you can get through those barriers with your Shopify store. You can keep those customers on your Shopify store, keep their information, have, that first party data, and then also your margin's going to be better. So.
Yeah, on my end, I love the fact that, okay, you're capturing. So we think about retention, right? So people who, especially if you're trying to be that bridge to convert, one-time buyers to two-time buyers, you need some type of capturing in place, right? Email, phone number. So I do love the fact that there is text offers like right there on the checkout, right? And it says, send me special offers through text. The only recommendation here is that I would change that to, get 15% off your next order. So therefore, you're already planting the seed of their next order and you're giving them an incentive. And also, you want to capture email and SMS. But regardless, there is something in place still, right? Where you're capturing their information. And if you're not capturing their email information, at least you get their phone number. And through that, you can then convert them into an email subscriber over time. So as long as you're getting something. But either way, that's my take.
I love it. So you're saying, Daniel, to lead with an offer right there on your text sign
Right
up
out the
and
gate.
checkout.
Right out the gate. That's what I did for True Religion. That's also what I recommend for all of the brands. Like, what's your ceiling for in terms of a promotion? If it's 20% off or 25% off, I would say go delicate, 15% off. It's usually like a safe zone. Get 15% off your next order. And you want to make sure you make it very clear your next order, right? So that they're not signing up and using that code, for this order here. But it's a great way to just plant the seed and again, cross that bridge from a one-time buyer to a two-time buyer, or just increase your repeat purchase rate per customer. And once you have them as a subscriber, you send them through a dedicated journey, right? So if this is going to be the welcome offer, right, then great, they can go through the welcome series. But I would always say through the checkout page, have a dedicated offer so that you're then tracking the conversions and you're seeing the level of impact that is having to your business, and have a dedicated welcome journey through that entry. So if it's 15% off, which is different from the welcome pop-up opportunity, then great, send them a dedicated offer, right? If you're only going to capture the phone number, because I have a lot of customers that say, hey, well, we just want to ask for one thing. We don't want to bombard them. That's great. That's fine. We'll work off that. So then now the automation sequence includes an opportunity such as, okay, set the delay, set the 15% off delay for 15 days, 21 days or so. You want to make sure that it makes sense so that you're just not immediately asking for them to purchase again, unless there's a post-purchase bounce back, which we'll get into in the next few slides. And then you also, later down the automation sequence, you do want to make sure that they've opted in for email and SMS. You typically want to be everywhere your subscribers are, right? So if they're checking their phone, if they're texting, get their phone number. If they're online checking their emails, get their email address. Same for if they're on social media. You want to make sure that they follow you on Instagram, but and all these other handles. But definitely recommend, having some sort of thing in place and being aggressive. Again, 15% off your next order is a great way to go about it. If you're not going to do, like, let's just say if a brand is not really into, discounts, if there's a free shipping opportunity that they can sort of leverage, great, right? Or if there's new releases, like, make sure that the incentive is very clear. Sign up for new releases and early access information, right, on our latest drops or something of that sort. There's brands where, they may not do any promotions, but whenever they do drops, is all limited. UVU Clothing is like the running based brand in the UK. Shameless plug, but really, we don't know them. And I'm just a fan because I'm actually training for a marathon and I've like purchased their clothing. So like, but one thing that kind of pissed me off, right, but also got me hooked is that every single drop they did for the longest was always limited. And so if you're not purchasing right there, you're probably going to miss out on like whatever you wanted if you try to go back to the website within a week later. Like, their site would always open for like 72 hours and then close and then open again whenever there's another release. So the welcome experience, because I'm thinking like a retention marketer. Okay, well, let me see what their pop-up was like, right? Because now I'm just really upset that I freaking missed out on a drop. So like, it's like, hey, sign up so that you can get early access or that you can get, news on when our latest releases would be. Of course, I freaking signed up and I finally got my pieces and now I'm happy. But it's all about the brand experience, right? Don't proceed with the percentage off if that's not your thing, if that's not how you communicate with your subscribers, if that's not what your subscribers are looking for, right? But if they're really looking into like the early access, or if your brand is all about doing these exclusive releases, then censor the incentive around that, right? That typically works. And there's always A/B testing opportunities, so you can always see what works best for your customers.
I love it. I text, let's just be honest, like the open rate, the engagement, it's nuts. If they sign up for text, I think as a brand, being able to highlight whatever, that it's a different experience if you get on
For
text,
sure.
right? I think it just needs to be, you're granting obviously to a brand your most coveted channel in terms of your text on, having those messages on your phone. I think being able to make it exclusive and really highlighting it is super, super key. As you just called out, like if you're getting a text update on a drop, you're going to be able to take advantage of it really quickly. So I think being able to convey that offer in a clear way is super important for a brand, just to know, hey, this is going to be different than your standard email cadence, right? Like you're going to get more value out of a text engagement versus email. I think that's killer. I want to
Sure.
say something to Tila. I'm a Caraway fan. They're amazing. They do a fantastic job. Their page is phenomenal. But I think what's interesting here, Tila, too, as it pertains to reviews, look at up at the top on the Caraway checkout, as on the Shopify side, again highlighting reviews, but having it be in the actual checkout. I'm curious what your take is on that. I don't see it a lot, but I think it's something that it adds that added value as a consumer, and that comfort, like, oh, okay, and I can engage there. What are your thoughts on how they position that?
Yeah, I think you don't see it a lot because product mapping is hard with a huge product suite, right? So this is an example of a brand that has exceptional product mapping done to be able to tie reviews into checkout really reliably. The other thing that they have happening here are recommended products. And what a lot of brands will do is Stamped has a widget similar to this where you can put product recommendations based on what you've previously purchased or based on what other customers who fit your persona might purchase. But to put star ratings in here too, to kind of incentivize that, and that can increase basket size. The other thing that I find really interesting as a potential value add, kind of building off of what Daniel was talking about, of like getting smarter with discounts and being more specific with the offers that you're offering to different customers based on who they are. So we've really been thinking about loyalty lately. Obviously, we're a loyalty company, and we've seen this trend in the market where loyalty programs are decreasing in popularity and people are switching to things that are a little bit more personalized or nuanced. And the reason for that is kind of like contribution dollars and margin. A loyalty program is really expensive if you are offering everyone 20% off of every single purchase. You're cutting into your revenue so significantly and so unnecessarily. So, what we're really coaching towards or leaning towards as a company is helping merchants to build loyalty programs that make sense for their AOV. So, what's the AOV that you see at first purchase, at second purchase, for the discount points that would support a drop off? Do you see that people are actually dropping off on second purchase because costs are adding up over time? Maybe they're not getting that free shipping piece. Maybe they're not getting that sign up discount. And what you can do to incentivize and nurture those secondary purchases. So what I'm actually thinking here is Stamped has a loyalty widget that they can embed here onto the checkouts page that automatically applies any earnings being like points or rewards that a customer has earned onto their discount percentage or onto their purchase. It's really interesting as a way to incentivize people to actually use the points that they earned and to have them a little bit more engaged in the loyalty program. And that way, people who need the discount are getting the discount, but people who don't need a discount, who would have made that purchase anyways, you're not cutting into your contribution dollars or to your margin.
So this is great information. I think a question that I have for you, Tila, is let's think about a higher ticket item, right? I know at Corsa we work with bike brands and electric dirt bikes, and there's a brand Buscadero that we work with. It's a very high ticket item, right? That first purchase is upwards of 2,000 or so forth, right? And their AOV is higher. So when you think about a higher first ticket or a higher first purchase, what would you suggest on kind of an experience that's a fast follow as it pertains to loyalty? High AOV on that first, a high order value on that first purchase. What would you suggest as kind of a fast follow on that?
Yeah, what we often see is with high AOV giving a really large discount or point accelerator at that first purchase. So maybe it's like on your first purchase, you earn 500 points, and that counts towards $50 off your next spend. What we see is actually when people do that strategy, they have an accelerated AOV on the secondary spend because people feel nurtured into that flow. They can apply a discount and then they have the consumer psychology of I'm spending less, so next time I can add a few more items to order. The other strategy that you could try here is a post-purchase cross-sell. So maybe someone just spent $4,000 on a high-end road bike, and you know that you have a helmet or a biking kit that you could cross-sell really quickly afterwards. Send that cross-sell integrated into the email, or even integrate that into the thank you page. You can have your pop-up, thank you, you just earned 500 points, and those 500 points are actually worth the value of this road bike kit.
That's a great nugget. 100% heading, especially into Q4, as you're going to ramp your spend. You're going to have a lot of traffic. Being able to help convert on that is massive. And I think what's interesting too, especially if it's a first time purchase, someone's really excited. They just got this high ticket item. It's a big purchase, but then they're in that buying mindset. Oh, I want some accessories, right? There's some different things that would be cool to add to this. And then being able to incentivize with some points that's a great call out and a great nugget.
And I would say that when you're designing for that BFCM or for that holiday season, a lot of loyalty customers who are already making purchases with you, they don't need the same level of discount that a net new customer would have. So think about how you can segment and split the post-purchase or the checkout page experience to maybe not be offering, if yours is like a 40% discount off a purchase, maybe you don't need to offer that to your loyalty program customers, and instead you offer them something via your loyalty program.
Huge. Great information heading into Black Friday, for sure. There's so much to unpack here. I wanted to get into shipping, but for the sake of time, I think we should jump onto the flows. A lot of value here to go over, but I think kind of some takeaways is just really being able to tee up that checkout experience, make it unique, try to personalize, be able to add, a added experience on a VIP from like a Corso perspective, adding that peace of mind, that confidence to be able to purchase and be able to engage with folks from like a text offer right out of the gate, I think is massive. So really good nuggets here on the checkout experience. This gets me stoked. Daniel, I know you're a wizard on this side. I really want to dive into kind of the flow and what you think from like a post-purchase perspective as it pertains to an email flow and an email cadence from like a funnel perspective. What are some thoughts as this is structured?
Yeah, sure. So there's two versions that I provided here. Here is like more of a standard. This slide is more of a standard post-purchase, and the next slide is more of a aggressive approach, which would include the post-purchase bounce back trigger to convert one-time buyers to two-time buyers. Now, what I do want to say is that, what we have here in the first slide and the second slide is really just more so the beginning, V1, right? As you get more in tune with your brand and your subscribers, you have to let the data drive your post purchase strategy. And so the delay time here is a cookie cutter approach, 1 day delay. Maybe that changes over time to a 7 day delay. So it all bases and depends on the product, the subscribers, the interactions, and even the emails that we have in place here may not work the same as other brands. I get that a lot. Like, hey, do you have an automation strategy that we can use that it's going to work? Or, I see this working for another brand. Will it work on mine? And, that reminds me of like my MBA. When I went to get my degree, the professor just kept telling me it depends. It depends. And then he would go into this whole spill about data, right? The same rule applies here. It all depends. It may work, it may not work. But what you have to do is you just have to be attentive. You have to be on it. You have to make sure you're reviewing your data. I typically say, hey, let's let it run for 30 days. After the 30 days, we see what works, we see what sticks, we see what doesn't, and then we start making changes. Now, if I'm approaching it from like, a brand who's never actually enabled a post-purchase journey and comes to me and saying, hey, we just need something to get, some points on the board. Well, this is the first thing that I would sort of recommend, where you have that email and SMS orchestration, right? Gone are the days where you have a separate post purchase for SMS, a separate post purchase for email. You have one automation that encompasses email and SMS. You do want to make sure that when a purchase is made, you are adding a tag to those customers so that you're able to track who is currently within the post purchase sequence. After that, right, instead of hitting with an offer right out the gate, we'll save that for the next slide. You basically set the tone. Here's everything you can expect, right? Whether that's regarding the brand experience or more so the product itself. And then after that, you can go ahead and enable an SMS that says, hey, your order is shipped. Be on the lookout. It may arrive in X amount of days. Once that happens, you sort of really want to build that brand loyalty, right? Where you're more so describing what the brand story is and the brand mission. And I would also say that if you do have a loyalty program, this is pretty much where you want to like throw that opportunity in there. Someone has purchased, if they have a pleasurable experience or having a pleasurable experience with the brand, do encourage a loyalty program being built into, or the mentioning of a loyalty program being built into the post-purchase journey. When I was working on launching the loyalty program for True Religion, I was looking at ways to sort of like maximize, how we can get more members, right? Especially you're working with a big company like that, you need to move the needle hella fast. So obviously we worked with other channels, but looking at my email background, I'm like, look, we need to include it within every single automation possible, starting with the freaking post purchase. So yeah, this is like the perfect opportunity to go ahead and do that. And then after that, are there any user stories? Is there instructions needed for the respective product? Include that as well. Once that's out the way, see if there's any questions, right? And this is where you can sort of enable that through SMS. How can we help you? Allow replies. Do make sure that if you have this in place, you're sort of opening the floodgates. So you want to make sure you're actually looking at the responses you're getting. And so we would always recommend that someone from the customer support team from a respective brand actually has access to the email platform, to SendLane, so that they're able to actually review all the responses, right? We actually had a similar situation where we actually had to give a tour of the account to someone from the CS team from a brand. Once you have that in place, UGC requests on the product. And after that, you can go ahead and remind them of what's to come, right? Hey, we have some new releases. We have new drops happening every so often. Be on the lookout. Now, the goal of this automation would be to encourage a purchase, right? And so if that actually is happening, you do want to make sure you actually tag those respective customers. Was a purchase made? Was a purchase not? And sort of like place them in the respective buckets. And what you do with that bucket is basically include that or incorporate that within your campaign strategy. When you're segmenting for your campaigns, how many times are you actually, targeting the right people? It's all about who you're targeting, sending the right messages to the right people. And so you do want to make sure you have those tags in place. But yeah, that's pretty much V1. Now, again, you let it run for 30 days, and then after that, you start making tweaks to it. A good brand, a good retention marketer is going to see this. They're going to see V1 and say, okay, great. How do we get to V10, right? It's kind of like Apple. The iPhone 1 looks totally different than the iPhone 15 now. So it was done through changing things, right? So yeah, that's V1. Now, if you're trying to be more aggressive and you're trying to convert the one-time buyers to two-time buyers, an easy trick, especially if a brand is promo driven, right? Let's just say the brand is promo driven. You fire off another email with a promotion right out the gate. This is low hanging fruit. And I know this sounds a little crazy. Like, why would I do this? Like, are we going to annoy our customers? This actually really works. Now, maybe 10%, 20% off is a little aggressive. You could knock it down a bit, but it's all about striking while the iron is hot, getting that impulsive click, including verbiage like limited time offer, 24 hours only, strike where FOMO, where FOMO is going to hit. And so what I would recommend is that if they haven't purchased before and this is their first time purchasing, trigger that, add them to that respective conditional path, right? And anyone else, you can go ahead and have them go through the standard journey. But yeah, in a nutshell, this works. At least when I've tried it, I've seen more successes than failures. Occasionally, this may not stick, this may not resonate, but if it matches and if it sort of like aligns with like your brands, if you have an aggressive based brand that's always running promotions, I would recommend doing something like this for sure.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
huge. That's kind of it's kind of piggybacking on the high AOV kind of thought process. If it took somebody a lot of time to do research on that particular product that's a high ticket item, being able to hit them right after with like an offer, I think is huge, right? Like when you look at something you've done a lot of research on, you pulled the trigger on it, getting them while they're still in that mindset is big to be able to take action again. I think that's really key. Jeremy, I want to kind of ask some feedback from you in terms of like delivery updates, status, and like on the shipping side. What are some thoughts on kind of post-purchase communication that you've seen that's been beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that we've all kind of talked about on this call is building confidence and continuity. And as a customer is going through that journey from that pre-purchase journey to seeing, review, a date, continuing to show those things across that journey is going to be very important. You don't want to lose anything. And then being able to show, instilling that confidence with, Corso with, hey, if you're going to make that larger purchase, you have this protection. And then once they make that purchase, it's important to very quickly say, hey, we showed you this date. This is when it's coming, even before sometimes that shipping label is generated. So that date, you have to be very confident, especially if somebody's making a $2,000 purchase. You want to ensure that your consumer is going to feel confident that that item, that bicycle, or that set of pans that they just bought, they're going to be home when that gets to their door, right? And you're consistently communicating with them. Now we missed, I think we missed the cart abandonment piece. But if they do leave the cart as well, ensuring that you're letting them know like, hey, users are purchasing this product. Look at the reviews. If you buy it now, you can get it by this time. And we're going to make sure it's insured for you to get to your door if something happens, right? So clearing some of that FOMO, but then when you get to that post-purchase, again, hitting them with constant, communication, not annoying, but communication where, hey, your order has been shipped. Your order's out for delivery. Your order's delivered. If there's an exception, making sure they know that that exception is there and letting them know very quickly that that exception has occurred. And then simultaneously, with that email or text communication, hey, we know this is going to be late. If it's going to be late, here's 5% off your next order, or here's a $10 coupon. so we can make this right for you, and being very proactive with that type of engagement. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that, and would love and welcome other feedback here from the other folks as well.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
no,
Paul.
you're good, Daniel. You go.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing. I actually used Phoenix on a few brands, and the case study results was freaking through the roof whenever we actually included the estimated data delivery within the abandoned cart. Like the lift was enormous. We've actually tried it with when I was at the agency side, we tried it with Hollywood Hair Bar, and we seen the incrementality there. Like within 30 days, again, letting it run for 30 days, letting the data speak. I think that brings like a sense of like, ease to the customer, just knowing when they'll receive it. A lot of these brands, a lot of Shopify brands, they may not be able to communicate as clearly as far as like their deliverability date. And then that can then lead to like confusion, right? And unfortunately, that's just the truth, right? Unless you have a retention marketer that actually knows what they need to do from like a pre-purchase perspective. But yeah, I agree. Like including that the delivery date, sorry, is like really good to the customer, man. They love that stuff.
Well, and also, Danny, like the supply chain is hard, right? Like you might be running as a brand, you might be running multiple warehouses, or if you're just in a single warehouse, you might be using 3 or 4 different carriers or services. So
Hmm.
to predict that up front is going to be a lot more challenging for those brands, and that's where leveraging a solution that can tie that pre-purchase to that post-purchase is going to be very crucial to ensure that accuracy, especially when you have those higher AOVs.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
You
that's.
sort of, yeah, you sort of, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna say, kind of piggybacking on what Jeremy said as it pertains to like the shipping protection component. I
Hmm.
think what we found on the Corso side, and I know Russ, you can add some color to this, but folks are going to that email, like the order confirmation email, incessantly to make sure, like, hey, when is it gonna arrive? They're clicking on that tracking information. They definitely want to know when it's showing up, and if something deviates off of that path of like it arriving, that's ultimately where Corso steps in. Like that's why with Corso, we integrate directly into that order confirmation email. If that order has been protected, like, hey, listen, you can have peace of mind. If it doesn't get to you, you've got a team here that you can reach out to, and we're going to replace it right away. So I think that's very interesting from a data standpoint. Like once that purchase has been made, there's a whole nother conversation that's happening on the post-purchase experience, and not only to get them engage again, but if that's a first time buyer and something goes wrong in transit or with the product when it arrives, the likelihood of them buying again if you don't make it right with them from a brand perspective is, I mean, it drops significantly for the ability for that customer to repurchase. And so I think that's what our intent at Corso is, to make that returns and exchanges experience, or if there is something that goes wrong in transit, make that a very seamless experience. And Russ, I'm happy to kind of get your 2 cents there.
Oh yeah, I've got lots of thoughts, and I think you guys have all kind of hit on it. Like really the experience that somebody has after they've purchased is really key. And there's a statistic that says 92% of customers will be willing to purchase from your brand again if the returns experience is a good one, right? If it's a bad one, that drops by 95%, or it's a minuscule amount that, like, if it was hard to return, if I had a bad like shipping experience, if I did a hard returns experience, then the likelihood of them becoming a returning customer or a repeat purchaser is very slim. And so as Daniel showed, just kind of like his post-purchase flow going through, if they're like, you can tweak that, you can make sure it fits really well, it has all the right messages and it hits them at the right time. But if they're having a bad experience when it comes to the shipping, whether it's lost, damaged, stolen, or it's not getting there on time, there's no communication. Jeremy like nailed it on the head. If there's over communication, that's great. Like customers don't mind knowing where their stuff is. But if there's no communication, that's when they're going to get ticked off. They're going to be emailing your customer support. You're going to have a headache. And so, Corso can step in and, take care of some of those shipping issues. But then on the return side, just to highlight that, like, if they have we've got a lot of brands that highlight the returns portal and things like that within those emails that Daniel showed, making it like very clear that like we stand by our product. If you have an issue, return it, or like let's find something that works for you. An app that I've used on Shopify that I really like is called Lifetimely. I don't know if anybody else here has used that, but it's got this really cool graph that shows like, hey, people first, when they buy, let's say the travel pack, they always, their second purchase 90% of the time contains these 3 products. And so it's like being able to kind of fill that out and know that like, hey, or if they return certain items, they're going to go for something else. And so being able to have those already in mind of as you build out these return flows, creating like a really good experience for your customers on the communication side, on the marketing side, but also the operational side with those returns and exchanges. Also, 67% of customers look at the return policy before they purchase. So having it clear, using it as a marketing tactic is huge. Being able to say like, hey, free returns if that's what you do, or here's our return policy, satisfaction guarantee, whatever you want to call it, making it easy and very clear what your policy is. Don't use tons of legal jargon. Just make it simple, make it easy, put it there, make it, show it in your emails, because that gives confidence to your customers and helps them better, not rely on your brand, but better like connect with your brand. They can trust you, right? And that's really what we're trying to do in this entire post-purchase journey.
Yeah, I think what I'll say is like they're just not going to get the runaround, right? Like we've all purchased something and gotten the runaround, and it sucks. And you're just like, I don't want to do that again. Like I don't want the headache. I'm just not going to deal with that. And I think the more you can mitigate that, just with your communication up front, the communication that you're sending to those customers on the post-purchase journey, right, on your emails and so forth, I think that's super key. I think too, from a Corso perspective on our application, we're unique in that we can create an embeddable experience on your Shopify store. So to what Tila is calling out as it pertains to like highlighting reviews, highlighting products that might be recommended, right? You can really curate your returns and exchanges portal to feature what you want, right? From whether it be returns or whether it be customer reviews, whether it be additional products you want to try to upsell and personalize a little bit. That functionality is available within Corso. But I think, again, kind of mitigating the runaround with a very seamless and beautiful return and exchange experience is going to be very helpful and also increase the likelihood of that customer coming back and buying again.
To add a little bit to what Tila was talking about, like creating this loyalty program, like we've done this for brands as well, where it's like, depending on what tier you're on, you get like a better or more premium returns experience. Like, yeah, you might have a return fee on the lowest tier, but like once you're silver or gold, free returns, like, and so being able to trigger and like kind of work in your return policy. So that gives your customers even more, reason to be a part of your loyalty program, to purchase again, and even more confidence knowing that they're just going to be taken care of by the brand, but when it flows into your return policy as well.
Tila, I want to get your thoughts on that as it pertains to, hey, we've all returned or exchanged something, but what are some thoughts you've got around, being able to maybe create a loyalty experience or an experience that you've liked on the returns and exchanges side?
Yeah, that's exactly an example of a loyalty program that is a little bit differentiated. We're focusing on community as opposed to focusing on numbers, for example, is being able to give that kind of accelerated VIP specific return. The other angle that I would take on this is with the review side, where we often see issues with shipping and delivery come up is in product reviews if you're sending them too early. So if you're sending them after order, there's a shipping delay, then what you'll often find is that you get a bunch of product reviews that are like, poor delivery experience. I don't know how it is. I never got my product. And you'll see those types of themes pop up. So what we often recommend is using an integration that will actually send after fulfillment. So you're sending the review at the right time. And that when those reviews pop up, you're using a tool like Gorgeous or like Zendesk to mitigate those right away. So you're responding to them, you're managing the solution. And that's for all of those edge cases where hopefully like we have all the systems in place, we have the good return policies. But for those ones where it happens sometimes where people are more likely to leave a review than to reach out to the team, that's the way to manage them.
For sure. I think it's very, very interesting to see the data. Like customers who are frustrated are way more likely to be vocal about it versus those who had a good experience. I mean, I think about it from a restaurant perspective. How many times have you eaten at your favorite restaurant and not left a review, right? But if you had a very negative experience that you felt or you've seen it with someone else, the likelihood of them being vocal is it increases exponentially, right? And so being able to have that, I think, is really key. Being able to intercept if needs be. I think from a Corso perspective too, adding that shipping protection component, that's your resolution, right? Them reaching out to the Corso concierge team, they get it resolved very, very quickly. And then being able to, if they did have a negative experience out of the gate, but changing it and altering it so it is a positive experience, I mean, the likelihood of them coming back and purchasing again increases dramatically.
There's a ton of
really,
data. Oh, sorry, Russ, you go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say this fits perfectly. I was talking to a brand not too long ago, and their COO was like, "We actually like it when things go wrong because that's when we shine." I was like, I love that mentality of like, it's really hard if nothing goes wrong and everything goes as expected. It's really hard to take a customer to a super fan. But if something goes wrong and you just handle it just out of the park, blow them away, they're going to be a super fan and they're going to tell everybody about it. So it's almost like these issues that can arrive after they purchase, it's a great opportunity. So why not, set yourself up for success as a brand, knock it out of the park, and just start creating like raving fans with these issues that show up.
For sure. And Tila, you had some thoughts. We only have a couple more minutes, but I'd love to get some party thoughts or what you wanted to add there.
Russell was going to highlight, or he highlighted exactly what I was going to say, which is that this whole process is really an opportunity. If you were like a brick and mortar business in a small town, you would know your customers and you would personalize the experience. They would come in and do the return, and you would have that relationship to know, how do I hold this conversation? What type of offer would go into place? All of the tactics that we talked about today are ways to do that at scale. So to retain that relationship where your end goal is super fan, someone who's going to champion the brand and not necessarily just first, second, third purchase. We recently did a case study with a brand that, what did he say? He's like, if I could, I would go knock on every single customer's door and say thank you, but I cannot. So that is what the loyalty program is for. It's just a way to incentivize that relationship component.
Run the business like a small town, brick and mortar shop, and knowing those customers and try to do that as much as possible, I think is that's some good advice. I love it. Well, I think we're up on time. This has been incredibly valuable. I think we could talk for 3 hours just about how to add some of these processes and streamline this, especially heading into Q4 and getting ready for Black Friday. I think, some takeaways for me that I want to throw out just on your PDP, just really leveraging and highlighting a review functionality that is personalized as a consumer, right? Like if I can go into those reviews and really tailor that to, in the case of Dermalogica, my skin type or what have you, I think that's really, really key. And I think also just delivery dates, right? We had a couple of different highlights where we're saying some consumers, they'll go and do their product research on the Shopify side, but might bounce to go to Amazon just because they know when the product's going to show up, right? So I think being able to create something in that way to be able to provide that confidence to the customer that I know I'm going to get it by this date. And then I think to Jeremy's call out, if it doesn't show up by that date, make it right. If there's a delay in that experience, what have you, being able to tell the customer and create, again, that opportunity to delight them with either a discount code or what have you. But being able to provide that on the PDP level really instills that confidence on delivery date. Heading to checkout, Daniel's nugget on adding your offer right on the checkout, for that SMS sign up, I think is really key. I think being able to put that out there is huge. And then obviously providing that confidence, that front of the line experience with the shipping protection offer there on the screen. Being able to do product recommendations here as well as additional components up at the top from a review perspective, just to continue to support that experience from start to finish, from the PDP all the way to checkout on the Shopify side is really key. I really dug that. And then Daniel just delivering wisdom on, an out of the box. I would argue a lot of brands don't even have this set up, and this is just an easy template for you to dive into as version 1. and then really pivoting to a version 15 on the iPhone, if you will, to be able to really level up that post-purchase experience from like a funnel on your email flow. And then again, returns and exchanges, making it very, very simple for your customers. The likelihood of them coming back if the returns and exchanges experience is bad, or if something goes wrong in transit, it decreases exponentially. You want to be able to make that easy for your customers. So a lot of nuggets. I think we're going to chop this video up. We're going to circulate it out on social media and LinkedIn and different things. Also, feel free to reach out to us directly. Follow us on LinkedIn. Happy to send you over this recording or any other components that you need. But a fantastic group here, fantastic panel. And from all of us, we hope you guys kill it heading into Q4. And we hope you were able to take away a couple of key nuggets here to make your experience better for your customers. So appreciate it, everyone. And we will catch you on the next one.